I did this yesterday, and we're going to do even more of it today. Yesterday, I talked about the international impact of the Queen and like what she means as a representative of the as a representative and a figurehead of British colonialism, British colonial power, British imperialism. But today, I will be talking about like her domestic actions as well. I think we covered that pretty. She ordered them to stop breeding the corgis in 2017, and said when she dies, she wants the corgis to go with her. That's crazy.
Complicated.
Woo! Let's go spicy, dude. Spicy. Queen Elizabeth's complicated legacy in Africa. The do you mean complicated legacy in Africa? I mean, they still got to whitewash it as best as possible. It was just bad. She was bad. She did PR for the murder and state-sanctioned torture of people living in African nations that were still trying to get their independence away, fight for their independence from British colonialism. Goddamn! They hid the first 2 negative replies, then gave up. We take a look back at Queen Elizabeth II's long-standing relationship with Africa. Must be confused. I'm actually confused. The fact that they hid this speaks volumes. Wait, what did they hide? Is it like a dick or something? Is it like a pee-pee? They hid like 4. The Queen is dead. She made a concerted effort to thwart independence movements and prevent newly independent colonies from leaving the Union from the Commonwealth. True. Her legacy is full of colonial violence and plunder, a legacy of racial segregation and institutionalized racism. Also true. She defended her son's actions in grooming children on Epstein's Island, prohibited people of color from working for her until the late 1960s. Also true. Why do Americans care so much of the British monarchy? Well, for me, this is a great way to talk about how the media whitewashes powerful figures in an effort to basically justify and normalize the horrifying realities of both imperialism and also capitalism. That's the only reason why I talk about it. I talk about it because like there is no better way, in my opinion, there is no better way that when so many people are paying attention to this issue and trying to form opinions, and all the coverage that you're getting is just hype. They're like, dude, the Queen was so sick. I love her. I love her so much. And providing a counter narrative to that by showcasing the horrifying realities of British colonial subjugation and the personal role that the Queen played in that as like the #1 PR person for it. Like that's huge. That's a great opportunity for me to do some agitated propaganda. There are still bones of murdered Africans on display in the British Museum. Kenya, for example, has been trying to get the bones back. Yeah. So, sorry. The Victorian era was the beginning that made America sent for the crown, but also without that, we would not have American-style Christmas here. Pog you, all I do is agitaprop. They pretend that like they gifted independence. Yeah, that's one of the most insane parts about this is that like they're basically just showcasing they're doing exactly what they always do, which is whitewash the crimes of powerful figures, because that's what the media is supposed to. And everyone from the most rugged leftist socialist all the way to the most like brain broken QAnon loving psychopath recognizes that reality, that the media plays a fundamental role in planting these figures and hyping them up regardless of what they may have done. Republicans only recognize it when it's like being done for Obama or someone like that, right? And liberals often recognize it when it's about a Republican figure. Like, but even then, liberals are such that they usually still will be like, oh my God, I love George W. Bush. And this is an instance, this is an opportunity for everyone to see that this is ridiculous. Like there should not be this kind of insane coverage over the Queen passing. I get why England has feels some type of way about it, obviously, because most people do not see the devastating impacts of imperialism. It's hard to get Americans to be on board with anti-imperialist rhetoric, right? And it's going to be hard for the British to get on board with that as well, because they see decolonialization or decolonization in the post-World War II era as like a massive dub of liberalization for the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like that's how it's been taught. It's been taught that way. So most people don't even see it as like a bad thing. They see her as a beacon of like decolonization, as though she gifted independence to these motherfuckers. Everybody in my school was pissed at me when I say smoking that Lizzie pack. Well, we already covered the Queen's legacy in Kenya. Richard Stengel on Queen Elizabeth II's role in the UK's legacy of colonialism and racism. You played a clip of her speaking in Cape Town in 1947. That's the year the apartheid took effect. British colonialism, which she presided over, had a terrible effect on much of the world. I'm happy to see some calmer minds and cooler heads come out and actually openly discuss the legacy of British colonialism in not the cheery way that the British media is presenting.
Played a clip of her speaking in Cape Town in 1947 in South Africa.
Right.
That's the year apartheid took effect in South Africa. That was something British colonialism ushered in. British colonialism, which she presided over for all these years, had a terrible effect on much of the world. It's something that people revolt from. And I have to say, to your earlier question, why are American news networks dedicating all of this time to Queen Elizabeth's funeral? I think it's a good question. I mean, I think it's something, there's a weakness in the American character that still yearns for that era of hereditary privilege, which is the very thing that we escaped from. You played a clip of her speaking in Cape Town.
Bridget Stengel, former Undersecretary of State of Obama, does not mince words. Why are American news networks dedicating all this time to Queen Elizabeth's funeral? There's a weakness in the American character that still yearns for that era of hereditary privilege is one of the most incredible and succinct ways that I've ever heard someone on mainstream media openly just slap a sticker on how cucked Americans are. And we are cucked. We are a cucked nation. We are a massively cucked nation. And by the way, we do have hereditary privilege in this country. It's capitalism. And it's the same. It's the Americans yearning for royalty and trying to run defense for the royalty, even though they are not royal subjects, is no different than ex-Mormons getting caught up in multi-level marketing schemes. Because when you are in an insulated community like that, they break your brain from the jump, okay? They program you to be open-minded to all kinds of bad information. They break the part of your brain that has some level of like critical thinking and skepticism in it, okay? So when you train your brain in that way, you are more susceptible to getting caught up in multi-level marketing schemes. And the multi-level marketing scheme in this argument is basically loving people in positions of power, because there is functionally no difference between the monarchy and people like Jeff Bezos. It's still a recipient of intergenerational wealth. There's still probability that factors into it, the probability of like where you were born and what kind of level of affluence you were born into, okay? Because capitalism operates in a way that is pretty similar to monarchies, theocratic monarchies, okay? Whereas the underpinning, the fundamental plank of capitalism is just meritocracy. That's why you see so many Republicans who, within their name, means that they are Republicans. Like they fought back against the monarchy and won, and they're Republicans. And so many Republicans and liberals on the Democratic Party side rushing to defend the Queen's legacy. And that is because they see it in an identical capacity to doing PR and propaganda for other powerful capitalist figures. That's why you saw someone like Jeff Bezos freak the out when a college professor yesterday pop off saying the Queen was a genocidal, bloodthirsty freak because he's worried that his legacy will also be tarnished in his untimely demise. That's also the same reason why. That's also the same reason why we have this unspoken pact amongst the elite where the American government will rarely ever prosecute prior administration. Obama ran against the Bush campaign. Obama made it seem like he was going to go out and prosecute the crimes of the Bush administration, and he didn't do it. Why? Because, hey, guess what? If you prosecute the George W. Bush administration for war crimes such as, torturing people, then the same thing can happen to him. And God forbid, you don't want that happening to you. So there's an unspoken bond. There is unspoken loyalty among the elite. Anyway, let's finish this off. I'll be back in a second. I gotta open the door.
Oh, yes, please.
Appearing in this witty sketch with Paddington Bear.
Happy Jubilee, ma'am. And thank you for everything.
That's very kind.
She is an impossible act to follow. A woman, a queen, and the iconic face of her country. She ascended the throne a fresh-faced 25-year-old mother. She left it a great-grandmother. And she leaves behind a grateful nation. And that's the word here this morning, gratitude.
The going on in the background? Gratitude. The idea falls apart when you realize that the royal family, low-key, isn't that rich. I mean, they're broke boys in comparison to some. Of course, capitalism won over. Liberal capitalist democracy, okay, won over the monarchy. So technically, yes, the real demigods on this planet are no longer kings and queens, but instead, people like Jeff Bezos. The family is still profoundly wealthy, but let me tell you something. Yeah, they're broke boys in comparison to Mark Zuckerberg. That's true. But if you're wondering why people like Jeff Bezos are like upset, it's because they want to also get that same level of love. They want to get that same level of love. Hate to admit it, but the queen was broke as Mark Zuckerberg is at least doing the Joe Rogan podcast, doing MMA. Seems like a step up for monarchy. Okay, let's
10
continue.
days of mourning in the UK for Queen Elizabeth ahead of her funeral. Events have all been planned years in advance, and Maggie Rulli is at Balmoral Castle with what's happening today and over the next few days. Good morning, Maggie.
Hi, good morning, George. It's here at Balmoral that was the Queen's final resting place. It's a place she remains right now. And George, it almost feels fitting. This place was beloved by the royal family. It's where they come in the summers, a place the Queen often called her favorite. There have been people here all morning, gathering, laying flowers, paying their respects, and it's here that ceremonies honoring the Queen will begin. The Queen's death starts 10 days of national mourning. It sets into motion what's known as Operation London Bridge, the elaborate plans in the event of her death that have been carefully worked out for decades. Everything from the death announcement to the ringing of the bells and church services nationwide. Because she died in Scotland, there's also Operation Unicorn, where there will be ceremonies here honoring the Queen before her body is moved to London for her state funeral. Now, as was the case for her father's funeral in 1952, a priceless crown and other royal regalia will be placed atop the coffin, which will lie in state at the Palace of Westminster. The palace will be able to come and pay their respects. That funeral expected to take place 10 days from now in Westminster Abbey. Guys, there's still so much we need to learn about this funeral. We're hoping to get more details today. George.
Okay, Maggie, thanks very much.
The royal family isn't that rich. I mean, in comparison to all these other, what do you hate about Elizabeth specifically? I hate what the royal family represents in general. As far as her own personal involvement, we're going to get to it in a second, okay? We're going to get to it. Do not worry. Do not worry.